Welcome to our first video for Learning AIM-D Forms of Notation. In this video, we're going to take a look at information flow diagrams, and our aim is to be able to draw them and interpret what they mean in an exam. In this video, we need to be able to understand how organisations use information flow diagrams to explain the system's data and information and how it operates in their daily routines. We need to understand the information that's being presented in the diagrams and what's happening at each stage. And hopefully we will build up to our skill where we can draw an information flow diagram representing a given scenario, and to help us with this, we will go through a couple of examples together. Information flow diagrams explain how data and information flows through a system or organisation in the daily routines that they complete. People or users of the systems will use these diagrams to understand the process of start to completing a job. As you can see in the diagram, when placing an order in the warehouse, the sales team will first contact them about the sale of a product to a customer. Secondly, they will then contact the accounts team to ensure that payment methods are in place for the order to be completed. The accounts will then communicate in the third stage to the warehouse to inform them that the payment has been authorised, therefore the goods can then be sent to the customer, which then leads to part 4, where the warehouse team will send the product to the customer via the delivery team. This is an example of a 4-part information flow diagram explaining how a product is sold to a customer and how they receive it. When drawing information flow diagrams, you should use a square/rectangular shape for the key parts of the system, such as the groups of people or the departments that are communicating from one place to the other. You should always use an arrow to show the information flow around the system. You must draw an arrow with an arrow head rather than a line, so the examiner knows where the data is going from and to. In an example shown on this slide, we're going to calculate together how an information flow diagram will be completed for handing in prep learning. In stage 1, the student will hand the prep homework to the teacher. Once the teacher has marked the work, there may be areas to improve, which leads to part 2, where feedback is given to the student about the improvements or positive praise for completing the task successfully. These 2 stages identify how that process is complete. Before we start creating our own information flow diagrams together, let's look at a more complicated and real-life example for an online furniture shop. In this case, we'll use IKEA. In the first stage, the customer will contact the IKEA sales department to place an order for a red sofa. They will give them key details such as the item they want to purchase, the payment detail method, and also the delivery address. Once the sales department has that key information, in stage 2, they will contact the billing department to make sure that the order details are approved. At the same time, in part 3, the sales department will contact the warehouse team to start preparing the order. Once the warehouse team have gathered all the items to complete the order for the sofa, the warehouse team in part 4 will let the billing department know that the order is ready to send to the customer, and therefore payment should be taken. Once the payment has been taken, the warehouse team will inform the delivery company that it is time to give the product to the customer. So in stage 5, the delivery team will be given a delivery note to take the red sofa to Mr. Wilkinson on a set date. The billing department will inform Mr. Wilkinson that the item is ready to be sent out to him via an email in part 6. This will give him a couple of days' notice to expect the sofa to arrive shortly. And in the final part of our information flow diagram, Stage 8, the product will be delivered and Mr. Wilson will be happy with his new sofa. Now we have actually covered a few examples of information flow diagrams. Let's go through a few examples together. In our first example, Sir Thomas Wharton Academy holds a parents' evening once a year for staff, parents and students to attend and talk about progress. When we're going to draw an information flow diagram, it is important you follow the steps on the screen. In step 1, a parent logs on to the school booking website and enters the date they would like the appointment. We now know where the data is going from, the parent, and to the school booking website. We also know what data is being sent across, and that is the date they would like the appointment. So we have the parent, we have the school booking site, and we have the data going from the parent to the website asking for an appointment request of a certain date. We can then look at part 2, where the booking website will send an email to the parent confirming the time of the appointment. So again, if we were to draw this out, we would know that it's going from the website to the parent, and we know that it's the confirmation email of the time of the appointment. If we were to continue drawing this example out, we'd look at stage 3, where the booking website sends an email to the student confirming the time of the appointment. Hopefully we are now getting the pattern, so we know that the data would go from the booking website to a student, and in that part 3 would be the appointment email of the time of their appointment. In part 4, the parents' evening would be taking place, and in this, the booking website will send an email to the teacher with their appointments for that evening. So we will go from the booking website to the teacher, and in part 4, the appointment email will be sent of the list of students for that evening. And to finish this information flow diagram off in the exam, we have part 5, where the teacher will update the booking website to show who attended and who did not attend the parents' evening. So we have the teacher going to the school booking website in our drawing, and in the final part, it's confirming if they attended or not. We have now looked at one example for an exam, and we've drawn out the information flow diagram showing the step-by-step approach of how this process will be completed. We are now going to do a worked example number 2. This example describes how the flow of data and information is used for a booking an appointment with a doctor at their local GP office. Again, if we follow the step-by-step approach to draw it out, we can label this bullet point number 1, so we know that that's the first stage. And in this, a patient will phone the reception team and ask for an appointment. Similar to our work example number 1, we now know where the information is going from and to, and what kind of data is being sent across. So we have the patient who phones the reception team, and in part 1, the appointment request is made. We would then carry on our information flow diagram with stage 2, where the reception team will refer the information to the doctor. So the reception team will contact the doctor and will share the information about the appointment request. We then have stage 3, where the doctor themselves will call the patient and will discuss the symptoms of their illness. So we have the doctor contacting the patient with the symptoms. In our 4th stage, the doctor will then send a recommendation for an appointment to the reception team, asking them to set a letter of an appointment for a certain date. So the information is going from the doctor to the reception team, and their recommendation is the data that's being sent across. And in our final stage, part 5, the reception team will then email or text the appointment booking to the patient. So we're going from the reception team to the patient, and the 5th part, it will be the booking of the appointment. We have now drawn out a second example of an information flow diagram showing the 5 stages of how a patient will receive an appointment with their doctor. We are now going to conclude with our final example together, number 3. In this example, we're going to use Doncaster Council and how they can have an information flow diagram to show how residents of the local area can order a bin collection. So, just like before, we break it down step by step. So in step 1, the resident will send a form to the council recycling department. So again, we know the data and information is going from the resident to the council, and in that request will be a form for a collection of their waste. We then move on to step 2, and again we identify where it's going from and to and what information is being sent. In this sentence we can see the council's recycling department will send the request of the details of the collection to the billing department, authorising payment of their waste collection. So the billing department will receive the resident details from the council recycling department, and that leads us to the final step, step 3. And in step 3, the recycling department will also send the details to the refuse team, so those people can then go and collect the rubbish from the resident. So we would draw the refuse team, and we would have an arrow going from the council recycling department to the refuse team of the resident details. I have drawn my arrow connecting in this one because it's saying that it sends it at the same time in step 3. However, you could still draw your arrow from the recycling department to the refuse team as a separate line if you desired. We have now concluded 3 examples of information flow diagrams together.